Welcome back to AutoTechNick. We're back on the Centurion today. We're going to shift gears a little bit, and our focus is going to be beautifying the engine bilge and back half of the boat. So hang tight. I don't know about you guys, but for myself, it feels like this project's taking forever. I have multiple projects in here waiting their turn after this boat, but like most of you, I work a full-time job. I have a family with young kids, but I also have something else pretty big going on that's really taking me away from this project. I figured I'd give you guys a little quick peek at it. All right, so here we are on our lower level of our house, and as you can see, we're going through a pretty extensive remodel of this lower mid-grade basement. Now this house was built in 1943, and we suffered from some extremely low ceilings. So you can see that we actually had all the beams holding the floor up recessed into the ceiling. They gained as much ceiling height as we could, but we're still just about 7 feet. So all the structural work is coming up and almost complete. All these beams, all of these interior walls used to be brick. They were 4-inch wide CMU brick that were not reinforced or attached to the exterior walls, so they all went down. All of the plumbing in the basement was actually above grade to drain into the septic, and there was about a 1 foot tall concrete pad that everything sat on. So we went, knocked all that out, everything goes back under grade. And you can see here actually our newest development. I had the joys of having a failed water main. So I had the guys come through this week, and they actually did horizontal drilling, and I was lucky to have a new water main source at the end of my driveway, and watch them go ahead and drill that hole in about an hour and run a new PEX main in. That was a pretty cool process. But you can see that they're not in here working today, but any of you that have done a big project like this, I mean, it is so time consuming. Even though I have a contractor here working on it, I am home during the week. It still ties up so much of my time to answer small questions, help out with little things where I can. I never imagined that it would be this time consuming, but it's going well. Contractors doing an amazing job. We love them. And hopefully this project's going to get wrapped up here shortly. And once all this is done, it's full-time, full bore out in the shop. Just thought you guys might like to see that I've got a lot more things that I'm juggling than just the boat, and it's slowing me down. But anyways, just wanted to give you a peek, and like I mentioned, a lot going on. Okay, so really, Roman? Hi. Hey, you gonna give me your ball? No? Oh, hi, Charles. Just come on in. All right, so back to the boat, guys. On the last video where I installed the shoe and the ride plate, we finished this pad where the pump intake sits and got that leveled out. And that was the last of the structural things that I needed to do to the boat. So I have all of my wood mounts in, all my structure work is done, and now it's time to address the aesthetics of it. I want to make it pretty. So I plan on running carpet all the way up from the front, all the way back on the sides and the center, and stopping it right here on this engine box. And everything rearward, I plan on going through and gel coating that. Fully aware of how much work that's going to create for myself, but it just, I kind of went back and forth. And if you remembered, when I put in those angles for the fuel tanks, I was undecided if I was going to carpet it or gel coat it. Gave myself plenty of time to think about it, and I've ultimately settled on gel coating it. Now I'm doing that because I feel that gel coat is going to give me a little bit more of a waterproofing finish than if I were to use a paint or like a bilge coat. Also, it's going to be far more durable than a bilge coat. It's going to be the most durable thing I can put back there. And also, if you look, everything is just a mess of colors after I tabbed it in. You can see where it's kind of light and white from where this on the side of the stringer, and then you can see where all that 1708 is tabbed in. It kind of gives it a green hue. We have the brown of the original fiberglass. You can see the wood through the 1708 that's on the back of the transom and all the tabbing. It just looks like a hot mess. So I'm going to go ahead and by gel coating that, it gets rid of all of that. Now originally the boat did not have any gel coat. It was just raw glass, and it didn't look bad, but it didn't look great. I'm into this project far further than I expected. It's going to take a little bit longer to do this, but at this point, I'm okay with that. I just want it to be as nice as I can actually make it, and it's really just a matter of pushing myself to see if I can achieve it. So the main thing that we need to do today is get all of this prepped, because this whole area is a long ways away from getting any gel coat over it, because it's just going to look terrible. Now you can see where I have the different layers where I tabbed it in. It's pretty, bumpy and uneven. You can see where I've ground. I haven't even done anything where I tabbed in that lateral support. Same thing back there on the transom. You can also see where my OCD got the best of me, and I drew some black Sharpie lines because I found that that hole was kind of offset a little bit. So I threw a laser level on there, marked it up, and I'm going to trim that to square the hole up. But I need to do something so that way when I gel coat this, it all will look pretty. I know it seems like it's going a step backwards, but I think I'm going to go ahead and take some windshield cutting wire and remove these aluminum angles, because my ultimate plan is I'm going to go ahead and add a layer of fiberglass mat over everything back here. I'm doing that because everything that I've put back here now, all this 1708, everything I tabbed in, that is all structural. I don't want to sand any of that down to smooth it out because it's reducing the thickness. I put all that in there to get the strength that I want. So I got 1.5 ounces chopped mat. I'm going to go ahead and cover everything back here, the transom, the keel, around the intake, even the stringers. That's going to give me enough meat on that fiberglass where I can go ahead and sand that down, smooth out the imperfections, give everything to have a nice, smoother flowing line, so that way when I do gel coat over it, it's going to look a lot better. Imagine it as like a layer of, if you're doing paint work on a car, like a layer of Bondo or like a high build primer. Same thing. It's sacrificial. I don't care how much of that I sand off. If there's areas that have 2 layers, area that has none, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to level everything out, make it look pretty, blend everything in. Now the reason why I'm going to remove these is because I didn't want to stop it up here and then leave that area raw. It's fine with me because now that I have all my fuel tank mounts finished, coming back in and adhering these back to the bottom of the boat won't really be a big project. It'll be quick and easy. And I'd rather have the finished gel coat wrap all the way over and be more uniform once those are out. Now I have plenty of work to do before I can go ahead and just get this chop mat applied to the back of the boat. So if you notice on some areas, say like right here, you can see where I just tabbed in this lateral support, the 1708, and I've done nothing with it after the fact. And if you look carefully, you can see it's very textured. It has high burrs on the edges, and it's a pretty rough, kind of ratty finish. Now we can go back to the stringer back here, which this was a final layer of 1708. But I went and just hit it real quick with some, I believe I used 80 grit, may have used 40 sandpaper over it to get those high burrs and everything off, and then rolled on a layer of these vinyl ester resin with a roller, not a brush, and you can see it has a much nicer, smoother finish. So before I get that 1708, I need to get everything scuffed so it can accept it. I need to get those really high burrs and sharp edges off, and just in general get this hull prepped up, ready to accept it, because you can see that I have cured resin with the wax additive that I'll need to get that taken care of. And also before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and square up this transom opening. You can see that I've already drilled some holes through the back of the transom into the wood, and I'm going to finish all of them and drill that now. And the reason why is once you kind of come through, it kind of breaks this glass right there. So I want all the holes drilled, so when I put on that chop mat, I can go ahead and get some fresh resin in there and get that sealed up nice and tight. And we'll have to come back and drill the holes again. That's fine. I just want to try to make this as strong and sealed as I can. I don't want to leave it dry like that. Now, one thing I did not mention with the holes in the back of the transom that I have to put in, I never drilled them through the wood yet. So I only have the existing holes in the fiberglass in the back of the boat that I have to drill through. Now I do have small holes there where I ran small screws to clamp in the 2x4s as I was letting the transom wood epoxy cure to the back of the boat. But I really need to be sure when I drill those holes that they're centered and they're located where I want and need them. I'm also not going to drill out all of the holes because some of them I'm going to go ahead and fill up on the backside because they're no longer needed. Okay, enough talking. We're going to jump and get all those holes drilled in the back of the transom. Once I'm done with that, I'm jumping over to the aluminum angles. We're going to get those out of the way and everything cleaned up and prepared in the back of this boat in preparation for the 1.5 ounce chop mat. All right, so I know that you're thinking that I'm probably taking a step backwards by popping out this aluminum, but in my thinking, it's going to be less work and faster to cut them out and re-glue them back in later than it is to work around them now. I'll end up with a better looking product, and really, it seems like the only smart option for me. So what I have here is, this is just some square windshield wire that's used to cut out urethane windshields. I just have it clamped onto the vice grip, so I have some grips, and I'm going to go ahead and just slide this down underneath the aluminum on the adhesive, and that's going to go ahead and just cut it, I hope. And you can see that it's not very hard at all to cut. Just awkward. All right, broke our wire, got it re-clamped up, and we'll just come through this other side. There we go. So that's out. And for the bottom, I'll just take a flat razor blade, and I can go ahead and just work it underneath the bulk of this adhesive. So and you can see that it doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort to get this up. I'm getting probably 90% of this adhesive up, and it's just leaving a small bit of residue on the floor of the boat. And for that residue, I'll just take my drill with a brass wire brush and clean it up. Like so. So that is to my point. It's going to take me maybe 20 minutes to get both of these out. Maybe 20 minutes on the return trip to reinstall them after everything's gel coated. But again, I don't have to work around them. I can go ahead and put that chop mat and extend it all the way over. It's going to be easier to sand. When it's all said and done, it's going to look a lot nicer. I'm going to go ahead and get the other one out, finish cleaning these up. Probably going to call it a day today at that point. I'll see you guys back out here tomorrow. All right, yesterday we got ourselves in a good place. All the holes are drilled. We got the transom opening cut out and squared up, and the aluminum angles out. So now, today we're just going to go ahead and get all this surface scuffed and prepped. We're not really trying to remove material yet in preparation of all this 1.5 ounce chop mat. After a good day's worth of sanding, we have everything prepped and we're ready to go. You can see I was essentially just going through trying to get everything scuffed and the really high burrs off, but more so all the surface scuffed and ready to accept the chop mat that we're going to put on it. I did go back over on the transom and I put some masking tape on the openings so I don't have any bleed through when we re-fiberglass it on the back side. So you can see I taped up all my holes that we drilled out, and I went around the edges of the exhaust and the transom. So we're good there. Now for the threads for the battery mount, I actually took some extra bolts. I cut the heads off of them, put a small slot in them so I could go ahead and get them out with a screwdriver. Now I cut the heads off so that way it's easier for me to get that chop mat over them. I can just make a small cut, slide the chop mat over it, and you can see that I went ahead and I wrapped them very, very heavily with Teflon tape. I did that so if any resin goes and gets up onto those bolts, it's not going to want to go ahead and soak down in the threads and have that get bound up in there. So I'm hoping once I go ahead and have this fiberglass on and everything cures, I should be able to spin those bolts out. I don't care if that Teflon tape stays, and then I can run a thread chaser through there to make sure everything's good. And that is my solution to be sure that that fiberglass doesn't roll down into those threads and cause me more headache. So now that everything's set, I got all my chop mat up here like I said. I bought a couple yards of it. It's 1.5 ounce chop mat. So I need to go ahead and get that all measured up into the boat so I can get it applied. We're using the same vinyl ester resin that we did for the rest of the boat. I will be using the additive so that way it cures off hard and seals up. And that's going to go ahead and make it a lot easier when we're done to sand this down so it's not tacky and doesn't gum up my paper. So now it's time to kind of get this laid out, figure out how I'm going to cut it and how I'm going to get it all laid in here to maximize strength and the material that I have. And then it's time to jump in and just start glassing her up. We got our chop mat in and you can tell that it looks so much better already. It really helps smooth out the surfaces and just really make it all look as one. Happy to report that the Teflon tape on the threads of the bolts that I had for the battery mount worked great. I went ahead and laid the chop mat over the top of it. I actually put some holes in it so it could slide over the bolts, glassed it in, let it get tacky, popped the bolts out. Perfect execution, so that's real nice. So this is all dried, kicked off and cured. I did a little bit of rough trimming. I didn't really cut close because I'll just sand it up nice and tight. So my plan for today is going to be hot and heavy on sanding. I'm going to hit it with a DA. I'm going to use 80 grit. My goal is to go ahead and sand this chop mat down to give everything a flat, smooth, uniform finish. So trying to get rid of all those really big transitions, smooth things out. I anticipate I may have some low areas and areas I need to come back and repair and kind of rework with more matte. But for now, the goal is to get all of this sanded, which I anticipate this is going to take quite a bit of time. See where we're at after we get it all sanded down. Probably gonna have to add some layers, wash, rinse, repeat until we get this nice, smooth, and ready for the gel coat. So I think today I'm gonna go ahead and drop down all the plastics that I have set up here, minimize dust, because with this 80 grit, all this sanding, it is gonna make a huge mess. So I'm gonna get this stuff down, jump in there, and get to it. All right, guys, made it through the sanding of the fiberglass. Mostly, I'd say I'm probably 95% done. I'll cover that in a little bit on what I have left to do, but I figured rather than just to continue sand on this, I'm gonna go ahead and show you where we're at, because really the last bits that I have to do on the sanding, it's really gonna make very little difference that you can see on the camera at home. Sadly, the reality of this entire work that I'm doing to the boat right now in the back, it's really hard to see the difference of what I've done from before to after. But I can tell you in person, and especially when you run your hand across it, the difference is dramatic. It's really gonna shine once the gel coat's on, but right now with the unfinished glass, it doesn't really show up that well on camera. It just is what it is. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention on this is I get 2 solid days a week to work on this boat, so typically weekends like most of you guys at home. I went back and looked on the dates of the videos when I first started sanding this chopped mat that I put on, so I'm ignoring the time that it took me to prep the chopped mat and apply the chopped mat purely to sand it. I have 5 weeks invested in the sanding this chopped mat. You really have to want this finished product to put yourself through this. And I can tell you that I spent a lot of times sanding this, debating my decision and my choice. It's like a lot of things where the bulk of the work, you know, I got most of the sanding done, the first 80% done really quickly in a couple days, and I spent a ton of time in all the nooks, crannies, and corners. It's very tedious, it's insanely time consuming, and you really want to have a lot of discipline and desire to really get the finished product to put yourself through it. So it's one thing I wanted to mention, so if any of you are thinking of doing something similar, be prepared. Now, part of this is my own fault because I said at the beginning I started sanding with 80 grit. I, about a day in, realized, you know what, I need to just jump it down to 40 grit, go through and sand everything with the 40 grit, then work my way back up to the 80 grit. And I could have saved myself a little bit of time there by doing that. I didn't. I thought I could get it with the 80 on the initial hit, but you know what? That's what these projects are all about. You try something, doesn't work, try something different to get the result you want. Cost me a little bit of time. I'm so far invested in this boat at this point, it's indifferent. So let me go ahead and grab you guys, drop you in here, and show you what we have. Well, here's what 5 weeks of sanding gets you. Like I mentioned, it's hard to really tell the difference. What I was going after, or the look I'm going for when this is completed, when it's all gel coated, is I want everything to look like it was one. So I don't want it to look like separate pieces of wood, and I want these blocks to look like they're essentially molded into the boat. So there was a lot of work sanding and smoothing around all the transitions and the corners to make that all look good. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, one of the main purposes of this was to basically hide or bury the tabbing. I didn't want to grind or remove any of the tabbing to lose strength. So if we jump up here, like you can see on the inside of the floor where I have my 2 layers, and you can feel it, they stick up, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch. So it's quite the gap. And then if you look here on the inside where the stringer went, you can see the difference in color, but it's completely smooth. And it kind of outlines it really well on the outside. If you look right here, you can see where I sanded through the chop mat and just started to hit some of the old tabbing and stopped. You can see this kind of sporadic pattern is all the chop mat. And then up here, I got back down to the old original base of the boat. So meaning that's a high spot, these are high spots, and this is all the chop mat that I added into it. Now you'll also notice, or if you see some faint marks where I circled in Sharpie, those were actually low areas, and I mentioned that I anticipated that before. I'll be honest with you guys, I stopped recording a couple days into the sanding because how much sanding do you want to see me do? But there were low spots, so once I found those low spots, I circled them with a Sharpie, and then that allowed me to go ahead and grind them out because they didn't even get sanded at all, they're so low. Scuff them back up and put more chop mat back on them, and then go ahead and sand them back down smooth. The Sharpie mark stays there. I'm not worried about it because we're covering all that back up. But there was quite a few low spots that I had to go back and reapply chop mat to. There was also some pinholes and some voids that I had to go ahead and work around. So there was really a lot of work. Really the bulk of the work is up here in these corners and also all the drain holes. You can see here, this is what I'm talking about, where I have a little bit more left to do. You know, you can see the shiny areas or the dark areas, that's where I haven't sanded. So all of that is high and that's low, and I just need to keep sanding it. a lot of tedious work. It's really pretty much impossible to get a power tool in there and get the finish you need, so it's all hand sanding, just sandpaper on the finger, working it in there. Got a lot of drain holes, so I have to finish all those up. There's a few more little spots I need to touch, but as I mentioned, none of that really changes for the end result here, so you guys can see what we wound up with, what all that work gets us, and for the most part, I'll finish the rest of this up off camera, and then we'll kind of do a recap before we go ahead and start doing the gel coat on this. So I just wanted to show you on this outrigger here, you can see where I had my 2 layers of tabbing, and it used to be symmetrical. You can almost see the outline of the old one there, and it is very abrupt. I'm actually pretty sure you'll probably be able to feel that through the carpet. And on this side, very smooth. So once this is gel coated, it's not a perfectly straight line, and I didn't try to get any of this perfectly straight. So, you know, it's going to have a little bit of an incline to it, but I wanted it to basically not be ripply or bumpy or wavy. So that was really the end goal with all this. And that's a great example to show you the difference of what we accomplished by doing that. Able to smooth everything out. I was able to do so without sanding into the tabbing, so I could retain all of the strength, although it cost me 5 weeks. All right, guys, one thing that I wanted to mention here, and I really just wanted to stop and take a moment and really thank you guys for the support. The amount of people that I've had like the videos, comment on the videos, and subscribe to the channel, it really does mean a lot to me. It takes a fair bit of work to film these videos, talk you guys through the project, and really get them edited and uploaded, and it really makes it all worthwhile when I see that it's either helping you guys out with your project, you know, it's either giving you the motivation or entertainment when you're working on your guys' boats. And genuinely, I've really been surprised by the response that you guys have given me on these videos, and I just wanted to thank you for that support. It really does mean a lot. Okay, with that being said, guys, clearly we have a lot more work left to do to the boat. Hopefully the next round of work's not going to take me 6 weeks, 7 weeks like this one did, so maybe I can get the videos cranked out to you a little bit sooner than I have been. But stay tuned to the channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Turn on notifications so you know when I upload a new video. Be sure to hit the like button. Give me a comment. As always, guys, thanks for watching.